Hi, little eagles. It's Mrs. Myers here, and today we're going to do a little work with main idea and details. This activity goes with the second grade packet number 3. Okay, so the main idea is what the text is mostly about. It sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. The main idea is a sentence or an idea that the author states. It's usually not just one word. Usually one word um, things would be like the topic. So the main idea is usually a sentence that the author states. It's also called the big idea that the author wants you to understand in a story. So there are a lot of tips to help a reader find out the main idea. So these are some tips you can use before you read a story, during your story, while you're reading, and then after you read. So let's talk about those. Okay, before you read a passage or a story, always read the title or the heading at the top of the page. Also, think about the topic that you're going to read. Make those connections. Do you know anything about this topic? Have you learned about it or have you read a book about it before? Then, while you're reading, notice all those text features. Read all of the captions and the key words and study the pictures that are on the page. Another thing you can do is watch for words and information that might be repeated. If they keep talking about the person or the animal or the same kind of things, that must be pretty important that the author wants you to remember that. So that would probably point to the main idea. All right, and then after you read the passage or the story, think about the most important idea of the story. Think about key details that support the author's big idea. So these are some words you need to know when you're looking for the main idea. The main idea is the big idea of the entire reading passage or the story. Key details are facts that support that main idea. Think of this graphic organizer when you're looking for the main idea. I see a lock and keys. The key details are the keys that open up the main idea or the big idea that unlocks the whole purpose of that passage or the meaning of the passage. Let's do a little practice here. I'll read aloud while you follow along if you like. Spring. There are many wonderful signs of spring. Flowers start to bloom, the temperature gets warmer, the days are longer too. Leaves start to grow on trees. Spring is a season of new beginnings. All right, so now looking at my graphic organizer, I want to think about the main idea. What is this passage mostly about? I'm going to say it's probably that first sentence. There are many wonderful signs of spring. I'm going to put that in the lock, as you can see. Now let's look for some details that support it. If the main idea is that there are wonderful signs, let's talk about one of the signs. Let's look for a key detail or a supporting detail. Flowers start to bloom. That's the next sentence. That is a wonderful sign of spring. Another detail, the temperature gets warmer. That's a sign of spring. And let's look for another detail. If you said leaves start to grow on trees, that's another key detail that supports the whole big idea. There are many wonderful signs of spring. All right, let's try another one. Ooh, chimpanzees. In second grade, we've read about chimpanzees. So let's talk about chimpanzees. You think about it as I read it aloud. Chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are smart animals. Chimps use tools to dig for food. They build nests from leaves. They live in groups and take care of each other like a family. So now I'm looking for the main idea. What is the most important fact, the big idea that the author is trying to teach me here? I'm going to say it's that first sentence. Chimpanzees are smart animals. All of the other details will talk about how smart chimpanzees are. So let's find a key detail. How about chimps use tools to dig for food? That's pretty smart. So that would be a detail proving that chimpanzees are smart animals. Chimps using tools to dig for food could not be my main idea because the other sentences aren't about tools or digging for food. The next sentence, they build nests from leaves, that doesn't talk about the tools and digging for food. It talks about how they're being smart. So that's another key detail that proves chimpanzees are smart animals. And the third detail that shows chimpanzees are smart is the fact that they live in groups and take care of each other like a family. Okay, one more try. Here's a story about George Washington. Now, many of us have read stories about George Washington. I'll read aloud, you follow along, thinking about this graphic organizer and what you would put in the main idea section of the lock. George Washington. George Washington led the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War. He was the first president of the United States. He was known to be honest and fair. George Washington was a great leader. Okay, do you have an idea of what the main idea is? Let's see if that first sentence would be the main idea. George Washington led the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War. Are all the other sentences about the army or the war? They're not. The next sentence is he was the first president of the United States. That doesn't support anything about an army or a war. So it's not the first sentence this time. Sometimes authors put the main idea sentence somewhere else in the passage. I always try that first sentence, but if it's not there, the next place I look is the last sentence. Let's look at the last sentence right here. George Washington was a great leader. Could that be my main idea? Are all these other sentences key details that support he was a great leader? Let's try it. George Washington was a great leader. Let's see if we can find a supporting idea or a key detail. George Washington led the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War. I think you'd have to be a pretty great leader to do that. So that would be a key detail. Let's see if we can find another detail that says he was a great leader. He was the first president of the United States. Boy, I think that would have to make you a good leader if you are the president of the United States. And the last key detail, he was known to be honest and fair. Boy, I think that's a pretty great quality of a great leader. So that would be another key detail to support my main idea that George Washington was a great leader. I think that's the whole reason why this passage was written, so that we would know that George Washington was a great leader. All right, so that concludes the end of our little lesson here, boys and girls. I hope that you are understanding the main idea and key details a little bit better, because they will make you a better reader to unlock the whole idea of what the story or passage is all about. So keep up the great work, little eagles, and until I see you again next time on our Maple Ridge YouTube, take care.